Hey, it's my friends. Good morning, everybody. We are back today on a Wednesday, finishing up our, I got to find my picture, finishing up our walk through the word inspire, looking at these 5 different areas that we're going to be working really hard on to get stronger as we go through this difficult thing. We know that as a community, as Bellevue community, we're not able to be together as a school. We're not able to connect with each other in person, but we are at home and we have opportunities to work on things. Or we have an opportunity to just say, oh, well, we'll just see what happens and just sort of drift. One of my themes over the next couple of weeks is definitely going to be resist the drift. Don't fall into this idea of just moving away from dealing with things and hoping that it will all go away. But instead, we're going to work hard on getting stronger. So we've done these. We've done the spiritual, the physical, the intellectual, the relational, and today we're going to talk about the emotional. And the emotional is super important because this is a very emotional time. Stress produces emotions, and usually they're emotions that we're not all that comfortable with, and yet they're real. And so we've got to have some ways to deal with the emotions. As families, we're sort of compressed together, and we're forced not only to deal with our own emotions, but to deal with each other's emotions. So this is something that I showed before, that just a reminder that the emotions we're going through are really a grief process, and that grief is healthy, it's helpful, it's something we need to go through. So when we look over here, we say, oh, it's not supposed to be this way. Well, certainly this COVID-19 sort of pandemic is a bit frightening. It's not the way it's supposed to be. We actually have a longing for way deep in ourselves to be healthy and to be safe. But we're not. It's not supposed to be this way. And whenever we have an it's not supposed to be this way experience, we go through a process called grief. And grief has all kinds of emotions that I'll go over in a moment. Just to mention, the word faith over the top is that spiritual part of explaining how the world works to ourselves. This is what we believe about how the world works. We all have to make sense out of what's happening. So we tell ourselves a story. That story becomes our faith. And it's not necessarily about God. It's just really about how we think the world works. Now, the grief emotions that everybody can expect to go through are things like being angry, being sad, being afraid or a little bit anxious, or maybe even going through these periods where we just kind of act like nothing's happening, like we just deny the reality of the situation. Guilt. A lot of times during a grief process, people will go through a period of feeling like somehow this is my fault, or somehow I did something or could have done something else, which falls down into the bargaining box, which is that odd box where we're kind of like, well, maybe if I do this, or maybe if I say just this prayer, or maybe if I mow the lawn, I guess it's not time to mow the lawn yet. Anyway, we're all moving towards this box called acceptance. And the acceptance box is where we get to that place where, yes, we're having these emotions, but we know that we're okay, and that we can process through what's happening. What's normal in any person and in a family is for people to be bouncing around these boxes from box to box. Maybe one day you're angry, and then you're afraid, and then you're sad, and then you're feeling guilty, and one day it just feels like nothing's bothering you at all. That's normal, and it's okay that we are going through that. And as parents, we want to help our kids understand that these feelings are okay and that they're healthy. One of the things we want to resist right now is that denial box to the point of numbing. We want to get away from this numb feeling that is probably becoming fairly common in a lot of families and a lot of people right now. Right now, we've been going through this for so long, it starts to feel like it will never end. And so we begin to numb ourselves from experiencing real emotions. And the numbing process is something we want to be aware of, because what we will do as kids and as adults is we will choose activities and behaviors that help us not to feel things. And those numbing behaviors become something that I talk about a lot with a lot of kids: self-medication. Self-medication is doing something to either avoid negative feelings or to feel positive feelings, but at the expense of dealing with real negative feelings. And we all kind of do this. We all look for things that make us feel better. So in the morning, I got up and had a cup of coffee this morning. Oh, that's some good coffee. And every morning I get up and, I don't know about you, but the morning sometimes is a little bit slow to get rolling. Having a hot cup of coffee with just the right amount of cream makes me feel better. I am essentially self-medicating a little bit. I'm helping myself feel better to face the day. Now, if I have to have coffee to get through the day, and I have to actually have a specific kind of coffee, or I have to, like, if I get obsessed with my coffee, it can actually become a problem. Okay, I'm obsessed with my coffee, but I do it here at home and it's going to be okay. And like, I have to be careful about that. Well, we all self-medicate. And what are some ways that we self-medicate? Well, one of the ways that's probably the most common right now is excessive screen time. Have I talked about this before in these videos? Yeah, a lot. Because excessive screen times is not good for you emotionally. It's not good for you neurologically. It isn't a good way to deal and get stronger through these times. So binge watching Netflix for 10 hours in a day, that's not good for your brain and that's not good for your feelings. Too much video games, scrolling through social media, all of those things that we do that numb us from dealing with our real feelings. We want to be aware of those. They're not evil. They're not bad. They're just a way to avoid dealing with real emotions. And we need to provide ways to actually deal with emotions. For older people, for adults especially, we often will default to self-medication that can actually become destructive and set a bad example for our kids. So one of the ones that's most common that I'm just going to name so we all know that it's true is the use of alcohol to help us numb our feelings. In these cases of stress, a lot of people will default to something that helps them to feel a little bit better. We need to be careful about modeling for our children how we deal with our emotions, especially if it trends towards numbing. So what kind of things are we going to do? Well, we're going to talk about our feelings openly and honestly, and we're going to avoid this. We're never going to say to our kids or to each other, you shouldn't feel that way. Feelings are not moral choices. Feelings are just feelings. They happen before we have a chance to think about them. What we do with our feelings, how we tell a story about them, that becomes a choice. But you shouldn't feel that way promotes a feeling of guilt about real emotions. So we're not going to say that. We're actually going to say, how are you feeling? And we're going to be accepting of each other's emotions. We might come up with for our kids especially, maybe a feelings journal or maybe a family feelings journal. How are we feeling today? Draw pictures of feelings, draw faces, draw colors, random pictures, pull things out of magazines, a feelings journal that identify the kinds of feelings that we're experiencing. Maybe you want to use a grief chart like this. Go ahead and take a screenshot of that and make this. Look at all these feelings, put those on a piece of paper, and everybody just say, hey, how are you feeling? Where are you feeling right now? Which of these are you experiencing? And then affirm that it's okay to feel that way. We're going to, one thing you might want to do is an emoji chart. That could be kind of a fun thing. I've seen teachers that have these, like in their classroom, they have a chart with a bunch of emojis saying, how are you feeling right now? And they've just got a happy emoji, a sad, an angry, a bunch of different feelings. Maybe get 10 or 20 or 25 different emoji feelings. And then everybody can put their sticker on where they're feeling at any given moment. And it's a way for everybody in the house to have permission to go and put their feelings up. Maybe we're going to develop feelings vocabulary. Here's a chart I pulled off of from the Center for Nonviolent Communication. Being able to communicate accurately about your feelings with real vocabulary is super important. And I'm going to tell you, developmentally, coming up with a feelings vocabulary is really, really important, and especially for boys. Boys have a hard time with this. Now, some of the wives right now are going, yes, they do, because men who don't develop a good feelings vocabulary tend to become very restricted in how well they can talk about emotions. I know that that was a struggle for me, and it's my job. I had to learn how to do that. So working on feelings vocabulary, coming up with a chart you can get off Google, excellent thing that you can do. We're going to use family meetings to talk about feelings, and those are good. We should get together at least once a day and just talk about how everybody's doing. But parents, so important. Every one of the kids, if you have multiple children living at home, every kid needs individual attention from you every day. And it doesn't need to be long, but it just needs to be a check-in to say, I notice you. Because often when there are multiple children, the one who seems to need the least attention is the one who is hiding the most things that need attention. And so we need to be really intentional about individual contact with every kid to say how you're doing. And this is going to be our message. Our message throughout our family and throughout with our kids and with each other is this. It's not this. It's going to be okay. We really can't promise that right now. We don't know how this is going to turn out. There are a lot of things we don't know about right now. We can't really promise it's going to be okay because we can't control those circumstances. But what we can say is this: you are going to be okay. Regardless of how it turns out, you are going to be okay. And I know you are going to be okay, parent to child. I know you are going to be okay because I love you, and I'm going to stand with you and walk with you and affirm your feelings. And no matter how it turns out, I'm going to be walking with you, and you are going to be okay. That's the message we need to have as we support each other in growing stronger emotionally. All right, well, I hope you have a great Wednesday. I will look forward to talking to you tomorrow. I'm going to tie all the inspire stuff into one little package and give you something that maybe you can use to assess those as you continue to grow stronger as a family. I love you guys. I miss you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you again whenever that's able to happen. Have a great day.